Welcome back to the podcast, guys. I'm joined with
Martin Dobson.
Yes. Good to have you down, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Obviously, we've met before by...
Yeah, when did you tattoo me? How long ago was that? I was like... It wasn't last year, was it?
It might be.
Feels like it's longer than that. Well, COVID makes it all...
Yeah, weird.
It's so weird. Like, it was since COVID, though, wasn't it?
I think so.
God, it's so bad. Like, there's so
I remember it come around quite quick from when you messaged. So
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember I was speaking to your assistant and you couldn't fit me in for like 6 months, and then you were like, oh, actually, there's been a cancellation, so we just got in quite quickly.
Yeah. I remember seeing the extensive list of tattooers that you had, and I was like, I need to prepare for this.
I'm quite lucky, actually, in that I think I get everyone's best work. Like, I'm not to suggest that people aren't doing their best work all the time, but people know that others are going to see their work when they tattoo me, usually. So
yeah,
I've had the most experienced, hard ass, like, kind of tattooers. You can see they're getting a little bit nervous, which is quite funny. I like it. I kind of play into it sometimes, but I want people to enjoy doing. Like, that's why when I let people do what they want to do, which is one of the funnest parts of it. But some people always, a lot of times, people are saying, "Oh, give me help to decide what content I'm going to do," and I'm like, "No, I really want you to do something that you really want to do." Or
that can be hard sometimes.
Yeah, no, I know, but also it's not about it being a chat. Like, I want them to do something that they like doing, or they don't get to do, or that does challenge them, because it's quite a small space and
it's challenging enough with
exactly
that space. Yeah,
and a lot of the artists I get tattooed by, they generally only do big pieces now. There's I get tattooed by artists at all different stages of the career, but a lot of the people I get tattooed by have been tattooing for a long time, and they're quite sought after, and they will just do big pieces. And I get hear it always. It's like, this is the smallest tattoo I've done for 10 years.
Yeah.
And that comes with it.
Well, I guess because
pressure.
people want to put full designs in those spaces, don't they? But you haven't got like your stereotypical small tattoo. A small tattoo, I wouldn't say is what you have. It is by the size, but the detail that has gone into all those pieces that you have, they're big tattoos that are made small.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes people will just do a part of a face or a part of a traditional type of tattoo, and you're only getting a piece of it. Yeah. So they don't have to shrink it down too much. But then people go crazy and they try and get loads in there, and that's super fun. It's great.
What was the when you started this idea or this process, how did that come about?
It's a weird one. Like, I got my first tattoo when I was 17 in 1997, that was. So, and it was crap. It was a bit of black kind of tribal off the wall, a bit of flash. And then
Is that the one that's on your wrist?
No, it's on my arm. It's been covered up now, actually.
Okay.
But then over the next kind of 6-7 years, I kind of just progressively got more black splodges on me, all over me. A lot of it in Thailand, actually. And then I didn't get any more.
Why in Thailand?
Well, I did my gap year in Thailand, but I lived in Thailand for a whole year,
nice.
Which was sick. It was really cool. And
my wife's dad lives in Thailand.
Oh, really? Whereabouts?
Yeah, in Bangkok.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's a crazy city.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't pretend that I had anything other than a tourist experience, but because I was there for quite a while, I stayed in a few places for a long time. So I stayed up by the Burmese border in a little town, a little village really, for like 3 months. And so I kind of got to know some people, and there was a tattoo artist there, and he did half my back and did a few bits and bobs, and I kept on going back there for holidays after I came back. And so yeah, I got a load of that, and then I didn't get tattooed for another 15 years.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know why that was. I think, why was that? I just didn't really think.
Why the spark again then?
Well, this is the thing. So I think during that time, after that time, I started to see tattooing got more popular, got more mainstream, more, well, my view of it, my interaction with it. I'm sure it's been there for years, but I saw more stuff. I saw more people getting tattooed. I saw more artistic stuff, color stuff. I kind of saw where
it did progress in that.
It progressed,
time.
but
Yeah.
I'm a Miami Ink person. That's how I learned about tattooing. That's what I saw, and with that, tattooing changed to the general public, I guess. And I always thought I'd love to get some more tattoos, but I didn't think it would fit on my body because I just had loads of black, and I was like, I don't know how that would work. And then I travelled a lot with work, and I was going to lots of different countries and cities, and I was like, well, look, if I'm going to all these places, it would be cool to get a tattoo in each place I'll go. And then I had a bad idea, which I'm glad I didn't do, was like I would go to different shops in different cities and get them to do their logo in like a little passport stamp kind of vibe.
Okay, right.
And that's what I was thinking. And then me and my wife went on a trip to New Zealand, and it was New Year. It was Christmas. And I was like, if I'm going to start this, I'm probably not going to be going to New Zealand that many times over my life. I may as well start now. And she came up with the idea of the hexagons, actually. She was like, so they can fit together. And
shout out to wifey.
Yeah, to Dawn. She's the one. She should be getting all the credit. And then she was like, you should just let the artist do what they want because you're going to get a better thing of it. So it was completely her idea, basically. I've got no thing. And then we had like 6 hours or 5 hours to our flight to Sydney, and I just went into a shop in Queenstown, and there was just one person there. She was an apprentice. She'd only been tattooing for, I think, a year or a year and a half. And I tried to tell her what this idea was, and she didn't really get it, and I didn't really get it. And she drew a like the mountain range of the mountains around the area. I think they're called the Remarkables. And there was no outline to it. And she had told me it needs to be bigger than it was because I wanted it really small. And she was like, you need to make it bigger. So shout out to her, Chloe, because everyone finds it quite a small space to tattoo in, but I was going to have it even smaller. So, I went into it not really knowing what I was going to do and what it would be.
So did she design the hexagons then?
No, so she just did a hexagonal design with no outline. And then I went to Sydney and didn't know anything about the tattoo industry, didn't know about booking people, didn't know about waiting lists. And I just found a shop in Sydney and went in there, and I can't remember who it is. I need to look at it, but the person that owned that was quite a well-known tattooer. And I was just walked in, I was like, can I get an appointment with him? Thinking that he was just going to tattoo me there and then. And they're like, he's got a 6 month waiting list.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, well, someone's guesting. And it was, do you know Inma?
No.
She tattoos in London, and she was over there on a guest spot. And she was working at the time in the family business, which I knew, which was a London shop. And she did the second one, and she did an outline on it. And then I went on to Singapore on the way home, and I got one in Singapore. That was more a kind of street shop place where I just went in and the first person was there, just did it. And then when I got back to London, I got a friend of a friend who was a tattoo artist, American guy who was coming through London. And I asked him to tattoo me, and then I took the plunge and I was like, just put a grid on there. And he put, I don't know how many we did to start off with, maybe...
Yeah, because I always imagined there was a plan before.
No. It was the start of it. It was just kind of going for it with a kind of idea in my head, but no proper plan. Yeah. And everyone was just taking ages to line them up and get it right. And then when we put the grid on, they were all out. So Rich had to kind of sort it out with the grid and then once the grid was on, it was easy.
So Rich is a geometric artist.
Yeah, no, he does lots of different stuff, but he just did the grids, and he filled one in, and that was my fourth one. And then once I had the grid, it was just like I just turn up and go fill it in, and it was loads easier. And then I just started learning about, that Instagram was around, and every time I go to an artist,
when was this?
2017.
Okay.
I think end of 2016 was the first one I got, so just before New Year or just after New Year.
And how many people have you been tattooed by since then?
So 119. Chris tomorrow is going to be 120.
120.
Yeah, well that's hexagons, but then the tribal stuff probably 3 or 4 on top of that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, 120 hexagons. All actually, that's not true. It's 100. Yes, 120, 118 because I tattooed one of them, and one person's done 2.
You filled one in
on my 100th one. I did my own. I did my first time I've ever tattooed. I tattooed myself and filled one in.
Oh, what? I didn't see that one.
It's pretty crap. Although actually, I knew it was going to be bad, but it was actually better than I thought it was going to be. And so Nick Horn, who lives around the corner from me, he's done most of the grid over the time. He did the whole of my left leg, and he's great. He's an amazing tattoo artist and a really good guy, and we've become friends. And when he was doing the grid, he's like, "You've got to do one yourself," and I was like, "What? You're crazy."
Yeah,
and he's
it's
like,
a good idea,
and then
though.
it took me 3 years to pluck up the courage, and he was like, "Just come in, and I'll show you how to do it." And I didn't know what to do. There's quite a funny story behind it, actually. I didn't really know what to design. I'm not that creative minded, and so for my 40th birthday, a load of us went away we hired a castle out and had like a 3-day party, basically. It was sick. And on the Saturday night, I basically, everyone was a bit pissed, and I was like, everyone designed tattoos. And so everyone drew them, and I blind judged it, so I didn't know who was going to do it. Everyone drew dicks, obviously.
Yeah.
And but the one that I chose was just like a tower of a castle with a Scottish flag on it, because it was in Scotland, and we'd got a bus up there. We'd like hired like a posh bus to take us up there, and the bus driver had joined us in the party, and he was the one that designed it. So I basically tattooed on myself the bus driver's design from my 40th birthday.
The more authentic. Though.
Exactly. It was. So yeah, I wasn't scared because I just had my palm done before it, so I was like not worried about pain.
I saw your Instagram post.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, but it was really surreal. I think even up to when I sat down to tattoo myself, I just couldn't think of how it was going to feel and what I didn't. It was surreal that I was going to do it. And then,
do you think that it hurt tattooing yourself?
No, I didn't even feel it.
Yeah,
and
because the adrenaline kind of takes over, and you want to do a good job.
But it was the concentration as well. I was just like concentrating,
and you kind of control the pain.
Yeah,
because when someone else tattoos you, they don't have that connection, so they just go and go for it. Obviously, they're within their skill and they know their knowledge and whatever. But when you tattoo yourself, it hurts way less.
But then some people say to me it hurts more. Like there was definitely when I was talking to people were like, "Oh no, it's way more intense." But
that might be a 50-50.
Yeah, maybe. But I was just so concentrating on doing a good job, but also just the experience of doing it. And like I've been tattooed for hundreds of hours, like couple of hundred hours at least, maybe, 300 or 400 maybe. And Nick was really surprised. He said the way I held the machine, the way I wiped, he said it looked like a pro because I've watched it being done so much, and it was quite natural. The weirdest thing was like the fact trying to work out where the needle is going to hit the skin. And the first touch it was completely in a different place to where I was looking.
Didn't give you the buzz to try and do it?
No, yeah, I want to do more, man. I want to do more on my leg. It's just a black outline I've done, so I want to put more in there. It's good. It's cool. I'm glad I did it, and I did it the wrong way up, so I did it for me. And it's right on like kind of the
okay.
It's
not cool
thigh.
anymore, mine.
Exactly.
Sorry, mate.
I know. It's totally uncool, and that's what I love about it. I really like the idea that when because every time I go into a shop, inevitably I get my legs out and everyone starts going, "Who's that? That one's that one." And I like the idea of everyone, no one will say anything because they look at this really crap one and they don't want to say who did that shit one. So yeah,
I have an upside down panther on my leg.
Ah, nice.
When I was practicing, so I have one that looks at me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's your tattoo.
Fuck all the noise.
Exactly.
Fuck
No, I'm down with it. I don't care. So yeah, that was cool. But yeah, and then Danny Cupio did 2 because I wanted. There's this graffiti artist called Stick who does like basically stick men in London. He's sick. He's really good. And I always wanted one of his designs. And I reached out to him and said, "Can I get your permission to tattoo one of your designs on me?" And he was cool with it, and it was all good. So Danny Lau Hardy said you should go to Danny. He's wicked. And so I went to him and he was really up for it. But because he tattooed a design that was something I asked him to do, and his work is so good, I let him do his own one as well. So he's the only one that's done two.
I haven't met Lau Hardy, you know.
Oh, really?
I speak to him a little bit quite recently in my career, but yeah, I see a lot of videos and comments. That's the thing. I really want to.
He's a funny fucker, but he's so generous in his time, and I know for artists as well. I've got a lot of. I know, like, you know, through doing this, I've become friends with tattoo artists, and everyone speaks so highly of him. But
he's a sought after man. I asked him to get on the podcast, and he was like, "Man, I've got a list of podcasts."
Yeah, he's amazing.
And he said that he's going to come on, but it was like, you know, it was nice to see because, you know, he's a tattooer from like the older generation now, and that there's still that real buzz around him, you know, which is really nice, especially from being like a tattooer and you think about your future as a tattooer, and then you see tattooers like that and you think like, it's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah, it's so funny. His shop's really fun. His apprentice, she's great, and we had a laugh. But also the tattoo that he did on me was super meaningful, actually. So he had a couple of designs, and he's known for his swallows. You know, he's done swallows and they're great. But there's I'm going to now have to remember the names. But so there's a tattooer. She's called Dot Shaw, and she tattooed in Blackpool in the, I want to say the 30s or the 40s, like super early days. She was like one of the first like known women tattoo artists, and it was like the days when they only had like red ink, and I think they sometimes had green and obviously black. And so she's done all these designs, and he was tattooing her designs. And when I got tattooed by Lau, she was 70 or 80, and she was doing flash again, and he was tattooing her flash that she was doing now. And he was like, I'm going to do a dot swallow on you. So he did one of her flash designs, and then she hit me up on Instagram, which is sick. It's like this 8-year-old woman like DM'd me and was like, "This is wicked." And we had a little chat, and then like 3 months later, she passed away. So it was like really, really amazing. I got to like kind of read about her kind of journey and like what it meant in those times when, you know, I don't pretend to know lots about tattooing, but it's really interesting. And that was like, so that was super meaningful. And even though we just laughed and joked, and he's a massive Spurs fan, and he tattoos loads of footballers, and I'm an Arsenal fan. So he's top of his shop is like a museum. It's amazing. So before he even tattooed me, I'd been in there 2 hours of just chatting and chatting and chatting. He's great. And we've seen each other at conventions, and he's helping me. He introduced me to I'm going to do a book. We'll probably talk about it later, but I'm going to do a book of the collection, and he introduced me to someone who's going to help me publish it and stuff like that. So he's just so generous with his time. He's a really good guy.
Talking about that, because he's, you know, how welcoming he has been to you in that experience and stuff, and coming from, you know, the generation that led before, obviously passing that kind of down. For you being a consumer of tattoos or a customer of tattoos, you don't have to mention any names. I'd prefer if you don't. But is there a system where, or if it was a good system, I mean, if it's a good system, you mention it. When you're booking in with someone, the way that you go around the booking process from a customer standpoint, because I think this would be useful for tattooers to understand. What was the easiest way? I get that you would obviously have a lot of like, you walk up to people at conventions and you book in and you're there and then and you're doing that. Not that, the process of like, you're not there, you're planning to go to a city and you're getting booked in. What's the cleanest way for you?
Oh, that's a good question, and not something I've thought about before. I guess I have in a lot of cases, a different experience to a normal customer, actually, because a lot of times I get fast tracked and people want to tattoo me, and I get in outside of the norm of booking in.
People want to be part of the project.
Well, and I see people, and I get introduced to people, and when I email people, when I DM people on the main, people get back to me. I don't know. I don't go through many booking processes, actually. Usually it will be a conversation with the artist, a DM, and then maybe I'll get put onto a PA, or it will just be this date. I personally like the personal touch. I really like getting in contact with someone. I know it's really hard, and I know there's so much admin with booking tattoos in, but I like to just be able to DM someone and have a conversation.
Yeah.
I will email people, but a lot of the time that extra step of doing, and I do emails all day for my job, but the extra step of like going and writing an email ends up feeling less personal to me. And ringing a shop, I don't think I've ever done. You know, so it's a weird one, but I
guess Days would have been ringing the shop all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've been ghosted by more tattoo artists than I've been tattooed by. Maybe not, but like there's a lot of people that I just don't think they read their DMs, and I don't think necessarily everyone opens all of their emails.
There's people now checking their DMs.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, there was a really interesting one actually. I went to Tenerife on a holiday, and I was like, I'm going there. I'll see if there's any studios out there. And I found this one. I forget the name of it actually now. And Tattoo Legend, I think. Right. And there was two artists there. I looked on the site, and they were both cool, look good. So I hit them both up and just like, I'm going to be in town. Would you be able to tattoo me? And I came through to Xander, who owned the shop, who was one of the artists I hit up. And as we started talking, because I followed her and she followed me, I saw a DM from 5 years earlier, or 4 years earlier, just when I started the project. And she had hit me up going, I've seen your project. I'd love to tattoo you. If ever you come to Tenerife, I'll do it for free. And I hadn't seen that because I didn't look at my DMs, or because we weren't following. It was in some weird place.
Yeah.
And so then I saw it, and it was like the worlds aligned that 4 years later I'd hit her up and asked her to tattoo me, and without knowing any of that. So that's quite cool. Yeah, it's really, really good. But, unfortunately, Instagram is, terrible now.
Yeah,
and
it's a weird one. It wants to show you what it wants to show you. Like even today when we were sorting out you just coming down here, and I was messaging you about the train. Oh, no, sorry. You messaged me and you saying, hey, still on today, and all that. I checked my messages to see if you had messaged me before, right? And you hadn't. And I said, it's probably working, blah, blah, blah. And it was only until it got close to the time that when I replied to you, I saw that message for the first time. Really? But I saw that you had messaged at like 10:30 or something like that. Yeah,
Instagram's crap now. And luckily I don't use it as my business like most of artists and yourself and everyone. I've got a following on there, and I like posting, and people want to see what I do. So I do interact with it in a not necessarily a business way, but in a way that it's more significant than just posting pictures of my dog. And it's just terrible.
Are you on TikTok, or has it gone on TikTok? Because it's gone around TikTok.
Yeah, about 6 months ago, I want to say, there's this account of a guy. He's tattooed abroad, and he's
shouting out.
He's great actually. I've been DMing loads. I was in LA and we were meant to meet up and we didn't, but he's a great guy, and he just did a story on it. And
I remember, I think it was someone. He was like, "Why didn't I think?"
Yeah,
of this
well, no, he said that. He goes, "It's a great idea," blah blah blah, and then and a few million people watched it. And I was like, and it was going crazy anyway. And then someone did a meme where they screamed and went, why didn't I think of that? And 20 million people watched it.
Whoa.
And everything.
Did it get a lot of hate? Because the internet's a weird place, right? Once things go viral, you get the weirdos come out.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like I've got a few thousand followers, and I get a lot of love on. All the people that follow me are tattoo people, the majority of people.
Yeah.
And they appreciate it, and it's interesting. And there's 0.5% of hate. And then as soon as it went into TikTok, and it's a different audience, and it's into that world of
children.
It's children, and it's people that sit behind their keyboard. There was so much hate, and it was like I was loving it. I was reading the comments; it was brilliant.
It's crazy.
It's mad, but it's changed everything, man. It's like I know of I get DM'd into it. I get kind of commented into lots of these, and I reckon there's 100 people in the last 6 months that have started doing hexagons on their leg or their body and started filling them in. It's mad. So it's just gone bananas, and I've stopped looking at it now. And I've probably been reached out to by 300 people to say, what size are they? Can I do it? I'm going to do it. Like all these questions. And I'm just like, this is just a whole different way of thinking that there was no, I don't own this idea.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you feel about this then? People want to copy this idea because there's going to be, for viewers watching, we're going to be going through some of the tattoos, and there are some copies on there. There are some copies on there. And it's weird that someone would copy the copy of the original idea on the original idea.
So there's a few ways of thinking about it, and there's different points of how I feel about it. When before the TikTok thing, there was a few people around the world, like 6 or 7 people that were doing it, and I got linked into it, and it was a bit like
they were doing the hexagon.
They were doing the hexagon thing.
With little
exactly the same,
okay.
but only a few, and and people would be like, oh, have you seen Martin, blah blah blah. And the first time I saw it, I was like, oh shit, man, like my ego took a hit. I was like, this is my thing. And then I was like, well, it's obviously not your thing. And it was like, cool, this is fine. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. And I used to get reasonably regularly people be like, can I have your permission to do it? Or are you cool with me doing it? And I was just like, I don't want to say yes because I don't want loads of people doing it. But also, it's not my idea. It's not, I don't
Are they going to
it.
go to the same tattooers?
Well, I've had tattooers contact me and say, someone's come in, they want me to, are you cool with that? And stuff like that. It's mad. Like, it's really...
Right. Seems to defeat the purpose.
It's a funny thing, but very quickly I realised that it's cool. Like, it's fine that loads of people are doing it, and I'm kind of chill about it now.
It's cool that you've inspired a bunch of people to do it.
Yeah, I think so. And it's kind of like, there's a lot of hate online from tattoo artists of like, oh, now all you're going to get is people coming in wanting to fill in a little tiny hexagon. And when it was just like me doing it, it was like, oh yeah, that's just a thing. But now it's like, I don't know whether it's a trend yet, but it's from what I see on my Instagram every day, it's a fucking trend.
When you got people copying stuff,
mate, honestly, I've got like reams of photos of people with like hexagons on them and then filling them in, and it's just like it's mad, man. I've just stopped looking at it because it's just so much of it. So it is a trend. I don't know whether it will last, and I don't know whether it makes what I'm doing less, but I don't care. I'm doing it for what I'm doing it for. And when I started this out, I was definitely like chasing people with big Instagram followings and wanting those big star tattoo artists. I don't care about that anymore. Like I've been tattooed by, in the last 10 people that tattooed me, probably 5 of them have got less than 5,000 followers because it's just people that I liked or friends of friends or people I've met, and I just like good tattoos.
So there's
now.
A new purpose.
I think so. I'm just much more chilled out about it. And I used to chase people and want to do it. And now I'm like, I'm trying to do less because like last year I did 26 in a year. And I'm just like, if I keep on going this rate,
What's the most you've done in a day?
In a day?
Because you must have done a convention or something.
Yeah, I like 2 Brightons ago, I did 6 in a weekend.
Whoa.
And I did 4 in one day at the church recently, which was a collaboration.
Right, yes. I'll see that one, yeah.
But I think that's, probably 3 or 4 in a day. But also I'm not, like, I've lost my ability to be tattooed for a long time. I'm like, they're all only an hour or 2 hours, so each individual one is fine. But doing more than 2, I'm like, I can't be asked anymore. I'm like, I've as I say, I've done a few hundred hours tattooing. I don't need to prove myself anymore. Exactly. So,
shall we go through some?
Yeah, cool, man.
So these are ones that, look, I couldn't take them all because how many did you say there were again?
119. So it'll be interesting which ones you choose because I haven't chosen these, so no one can get mad.
and as well as say choose is like these are the ones that I found on Instagram and some clear photos for viewers and stuff like that. So, and there are some names that I personally know.
Cool.
So we got number 1 here. So this is Army James.
Yeah, so Army, yeah. So so as I said earlier, like I got tattooed before the Miami Ink thing, but definitely seeing Miami Ink was my first kind of.
It was my introduction. Well, I say introduction to it. There's 2 of your tattoos on here that are my like introduction into tattooing. One, the Miami Ink thing. So you've got Army James and there's a Chris Garver piece that's on there.
Yeah.
But then there's also Steve Byrne that's on there. And Steve Byrne was the first tattoo. I've mentioned this in a podcast before, but the first tattoo magazine that I bought to, like, he wasn't a guy that was mentoring me. He was just a twat, really. But I showed him the page of his spread that he had in a magazine, and he was like, "Oh, I don't want to tell you like that. It's all a load of shit." And I was like, "Looks pretty fucking good to me, man." Like,
Steve's wicked, man.
Yeah, and he was like one of my like tattoo inspirations at the time. So it's weird when I went through the list, I was like, "Oh, there's a timeline in there even for myself."
Yeah, and also, I'd love to say that it was all curated and I knew all this stuff and I know my history and I've picked. Sometimes it's just chance. Like, I didn't know who Steve Byrne was really. I was just going to Texas and I looked up and then I saw this guy and it was really like amazing tattoos, and also that was like right near the start and I was like, fuck, there's loads of people who follow him. I'm going to go hit him up. And I was the day before I contacted him and I'm like, hello, can you tattoo me? And he's like, yeah, cool. And he did it and he was, and I don't think I even.
Is he a chill guy?
He's chill, yeah. He's wicked. I didn't even know. I don't think I knew he was British. And then I turned up, and I'm 6'5". He is tall, man.
Yeah,
and I'm not used to people. I'm not used to people
yeah.
like towering over me. But he's cool and really chill and really happy. And he's like, I've seen him a few times recently at conventions, and yeah, he's good. Honestly, I've been tattooed by 119 people. I've not been tattooed by a dick. It's been amazing.
Oh,
everyone is sound. And I don't know whether I'm just lucky. I don't know whether everyone's on their best behaviour or there's not many dicks in the tattoo industry. I know a lot of people are going to laugh when I say that, but I've got a lot of experience of meeting people and everyone's been lovely. It's really nice. Like, it's really, I'm interested. Obviously there's lots of stuff about the state of the industry and people within it, but my experience has just been 100% positive, which has been brilliant,
They want to get in that book.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, he was one of the people that I would be like, I would love to be taught by Steve Byrne.
Right.
When I started. Right, so Army James though.
Yeah, this was a good one. This was so actually the one below it, if you see the snake with the kind of turquoise waves, that's a guy called Avi Vanunu, and I was in Tel Aviv going to a wedding, and I just looked him up and I chose him, and then I think reading on his site, there was something about him being connected to Army, whether he was his teacher or like whatever. And so I went and I had it was a really good session with Avi. And then right at the end of the session, we're sitting there and Army walks in and he's on holiday with his wife. And they just come in to see him, and I was like, fuck. And I was a bit starstruck. But I was like, I really want to get tattooed, because Avi told him about my tattoos, and I don't know how many I had, like 15 or 20 or something. And I was like, I really want to get tattooed by you. And he's like, cool, I'm in London next week or 2 weeks' time. Come in. And then he tattooed me.
In Love Hate?
In Love Hate in West London.
Yeah.
And it was great. And he drew it on. It was like a proper tattoo experience. It was like my little Miami Ink. It was great. He drew it on. There was another tattoo artist, Nene, who was a friend of his, who was there. And we just chatted loads, talked a lot about music whilst he was tattooing me. But it is a very good, what he's fit into that space. And it's bulletproof now, 5 years later, or how long it is. But yeah, so that was, it's funny seeing that photo actually, because obviously it's been extended since then. So it's surrounded now. But yeah, that was great. And that kind of, yeah, that was a fun one, and in London, and that was.
So Army's a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
It takes all the bravado of the TV stuff,
Yeah, he was really generous and nice, and like,
he always seems to be like a down to earth guy.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was great.
from all the series. and
I
stuff?
only had a good experience. So yeah.
Yeah, great, cool. Right, number 2. Let's have a look at this. I think this is.
So this was done 2 days or 1 day, 2 days after Armies actually at the London convention. My first time at a convention. It's John Anderton, and he did it at the convention, London convention, and he didn't have a bed or anything. So I sat on a stool or a chair, and he did the whole tattoo in a crouch position. And just playing me lots of videos of him rapping, which was,
Oh yeah, oh I remember that.
yeah, with his like, is he from Leeds? But he's like he had a deep accent. It was brilliant.
And you work in a record label, so you were like, cool.
Yeah. No, it was cool. But he knew I worked at a label, and he was definitely playing. It was fun. But,
Nice.
But yeah, so he did that. That was my first one at a convention, actually.
Got a bunch of Liberty caps on you there.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really interesting. He was like, he told me that all of these he does a lot of these, and he was like, this isn't just a random picture, it's a world that I know and is in my head. And he goes, I know what's through that door in that cave, and that goes to someone else's tattoo, and he knows which tattoo it is, and he's built this world that he tattoos on people, and it's not just random. He's like, they're positions on a map in his head, and I'm like, fucking hell, man!
Right.
You've had a few Liberty caps. No, he's a dude, man. Like that was fun. But that was a weird one because it was my first tattoo where it was just like loads of people watching you get tattooed. And
At the convention.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one of the busiest conventions
I'm pretty
in the world.
used to that now, but yeah, it's kind of a different experience than being in a nice, warm, private studio.
Number 3. Let's have a look. Oh, Kelly Violence,
Kelly,
right?
yeah, Kelly. Kelly's. I'm going to keep on saying this, and it's going to be boring, but she's one of the nicest people I've ever been tattooed by. She's so lovely. And
why is her name Kelly Violence?
I don't know. No, so it's Kelly Violence, but I think her tattoo name is Kelly Violet. So I don't know whether I don't know whether that's her name and it's just a play on it, or it's something completely different. But she's definitely not violent. And yeah, that was done in London, and where was that?
She's an amazing tattoo.
Oh my god, she's so good. Yeah, that was just really fun, and it was quick as well, and not brutal, and just fun to do.
Not violent.
No, not violent, and quick. and quick tattoos are the best tattoos.
How quick was it?
Oh, I don't remember, but like less than an hour, I would imagine. The quickest one I did was, do you know James Tex?
I think he's on the list.
Is he on the list? Oh, we'll talk about that then.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, Matty.
So I know and love Matty now. Matty's wicked, but this was more about like it was the last week of Into You. So this was early days, and I didn't know as much about the tattoo industry as I do now. But I knew Into You. Into You was a shop that I knew, and and Alex and everything. And now I've been tattooed by Alex, which is great. But I found out it was closing down. And I was like, I have to get tattooed Into You, like before it closed down. I want to have been tattooed in that shop. So I think I don't know whether I rung up or I might have rung up in that instance. I was just like, who can tattoo me? And they're like, Matty's got some space. And I was like, wicked. So I went down there and he was just like, cool. And it was Halloween, and he just said, I'm going to do some sick jaws, like fangs on you.
Yeah,
and again,
nice.
That was pretty quick as well. He was super into my tribal stuff on my back, made me like take all my top off, and I was like, yeah, I've got this crap stuff on my back, and he's like, mate, this is sick, this is so good. And he was like really into it. And right next on the station next door was Duncan X, which is again someone who I really knew and respected, and so I was chatting to him, and I managed to get appointment with him like a few months later in a different shop because Into You was gone. So
yeah, Matt is a cool guy.
Oh my god, I've seen him a few times. He's the typical Australian, but what a dude! I love him. I absolutely love him. He's great.
So who have we got here?
And then is this Mo? Yeah,
it's Mo. Yes, owner of the family business, right?
Yeah, owner of family business, and just round the corner from Into You. Actually, it's like walking distance, and I knew the family business because I lived around the corner from it 5 or 6 years earlier, and was going to get tattooed in there before I'd done all of this. And then it didn't work out. It didn't happen. And then I knew of Mo, but not really know him. And then I hit him up, and he's a legend. And I just wanted to get at that time I was just like wanted to get all these people to tattoo me. So he did that, and that was again a traditional. I guess you call it traditional Japanese, but he's just a master. And I've been tattooed a couple of times since in his shop, but
it fits really well with that section as well.
Yeah, exactly. And this was again early days when I was kind of didn't. Now, even though I've tattooed myself, but I've never really done tattooing. But now I can kind of have a reasonably technical conversation about tattooing because I kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I place stuff because of how things look, and there's a kind of method to the madness of where I place things. But this was all more luck than judgment.
All right, who's up next? So,
Flo. This tattoo,
nice.
and this picture was taken right after it finished. So obviously,
I saw another picture of it that you have.
This was, I don't know how long ago this was. There you go. Look, it's the one I'm looking at is from 2017. So we know it's 6 years ago. And if you look at this now, it looks like it was done 2 weeks ago.
I saw a photo of it, and it looks kind of more silvery than before, which has had that really nice kind of settled in,
bedded in beautifully, and it's bulletproof. And
wow.
And she's great, and that was a seven doors. No, it wasn't. It was a Black Anchor. Oh, I don't know. But the shop that Rodrigo used to own in
Black Garden.
Black Garden. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yes, we went and did that in the basement down there, and unfortunately, it was on the back of my leg, so I didn't actually watch her do it because I love watching being tattooed because it's really interesting in doing it. But I still think she's up there with one of the most technical tattoos I've got. It's just, and it's interesting which get pointed out, and that still to this day gets pointed out much more than a lot of other ones.
Well, I saw, when I saw the hill thing, I think it's like how drawing the eyes are as well. It's really captured that kind of like mystical edge to the god in it, and it really stares at you and jumps at you, because this is the thing, for all the pieces you need a piece that kind of, it's like a look at me, isn't it, and that does that really well.
And you'll be amazed by how many eyes I have on me. I guess it's an easy way to have a focal point, but whether they just be an eye or it's a face with eyes or it's an animal that has eyes, so many of them have got eyes in them. It's quite interesting. Like you can just see a little bit on Ildo's here, which was done at Parliament, which is where Kelly tattooed me. And Ildo is from South Korea, and I don't know how I found out about him. Maybe I saw on Instagram that he was guesting there and I checked him out, but his style is just so different to anything I've seen, and again, people can pick that out. It's amazing with such small tattoos. I can go into any studio in the country or the world, and people will go, "That's that person. That's that person." Yeah,
they translate their style really well,
and
into
it's amazing.
Those,
but like his style is so clear, it couldn't be anyone else.
That's
but
really
again,
cool.
that's just a cut off. Go and check out his work if you don't know him, because that's a tiny cut off of what he does, and he just builds these worlds. These, I don't know whether they're ghouls or skulls or and all the clouds and stuff around it. It's brilliant, and it doesn't really do it justice because it's such a small space, but I love it.
It kind of gives me that Day of the Dead kind of vibe.
Yeah. He's the nicest, chirpiest, lovely guy. Like he's not dark at all. Nice. James. This is James Tech. So this when we talk about speed, this is mental. And people don't believe me, and I wish I'd filmed it or something. But this was at London Convention, and I hadn't booked in with him, and I just knew him, and I went over to the booth and was just like, "Can you fit me in?" And he was like, "Yeah, come back in a couple of hours or something." And from walking into his booth, him drawing on the design, not liking it, wiping it off, drawing on that design, tattooing it, cleaning it, and taking a picture of it, 45 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, he must have been tattooing me for less than half an hour for that, and it's a sticker.
Whoa.
It is mental. He's really known for being quick. And I'd say that to artists now, people can't believe it. And I questioned myself, like, have I made that mistake?
Well-
And it was like, but no, honestly, he's done back pieces at a convention in a day. Yeah, no, it was good. And and he's just, he's somewhere, it's like, it's interesting. Like I keep in contact with people and I see people, and it's since getting that tattoo, he's not really on social media particularly, doesn't post much. And so I haven't seen him since, and that was 4 years ago. But it was such a great experience. It's one of my favourites. So one of these days I hope I get to see him again and he can see it again and we can, talk again, because that's half the fun of it.
That's really cool, that one. Right, so there's a collection of these guys here, but the one was
Oh, Victor Portugal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was all at one convention. I got tattooed by Tintin and James Tex and Victor Portugal. And again, I just went up to his booth and I wasn't booked in. I was like, can you do something? And he sat down and did it, and he's just a master. Like,
so you said before his was 45 minutes. So that was the quickest, I imagine.
Yeah.
So what was
No, it's not the quickest, because do you know Dots to Lines? Haim.
Right.
He does like really amazing, like he'll do like all the way down a whole body, and it will be a number of lines, and he does them really. It's really cool stuff he does.
Okay.
Like, check it out. He dots 2 lines, and he did one, and it only took 8 minutes because it's like 6 lines on the thing. But it looks sick.
Oh, okay, right.
But yeah, of like a full
design
tattoo. Yeah, he's the quickest for sure.
So then you have the shortest design. What is the longest?
I want you to guess, because everyone guesses wrong.
You want me to guess?
Yeah, how long do you think one of those tattoos have taken?
I would say for how big is the?
So it's about 2.5 inches square, probably. I don't know what that is.
How
in
long did
centimetres.
ours take?
Oh, less than 2 hours, right? Maybe 2 hours? Maybe 2 hours?
Yeah.
It wasn't more than 2. If it was more than 2 hours, it wasn't much more than 2 hours.
I would say then, because I would consider myself to be kind of quick. I remember on that day being a little bit pressured because of the thing. 5 hours.
7 hours.
7 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
7 hours. And I don't know how they filled that time. I won't say who it was because, I won't say who it was because I don't want to shit on them. But yeah, it was just mind-boggling that they took that long to do it. But it's a cool tattoo, and it was all good. But yeah, 7 hours.
7 hours. Wow. Cool. So next, Chris Carver.
Yeah, he's a legend, right? You know Chris, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he tattooed me in New York in his shop, and that was I don't know whether you played it when you watched Miami Ink, but it was like, there was obviously, when I watched it, there was the 4 of them, Darren, the 2 Chris's, and Nami.
Yeah,
and it was like, who, if I was going to get tattooed by one of them, and I could only get tattooed by one of them, who would it be? And it would obviously be Chris. Like,
I think Chris he was very knowledgeable, wasn't he? They all had their own different personalities.
Exactly.
I wonder if TV kind of took that over for all of them.
I'm sure
TV
how these work, but
played a point in that, and I don't know anything about that. But he was very let's slow down, let's figure it all out and do it properly.
And just being in his presence and him doing it was just amazing. And this is right when it was done, but it looks amazing now. And actually, I've got the 2 spaces above it that you can see, that you probably can see in the photo. I've saved those, and I'm in contact with Darren and Chris Nunes as well. And I'm going to get all 4 of them. They're all going to do it, but it's just about either me being in America or them not being in America and me being in the same place. But I'm going to get, so I'll get all 4 of them, because I'm just like,
cool,
people. I think people give that show and what it did sometimes a bit of a hard time, but for a lot of people, it was the first kind of way of knowing about this stuff. And I think, they're all talented guys, and I think they did a lot for my understanding of it, and get to be able to have all 4 of them tattoo me is great, So I'm really looking forward to that.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the show. As they dragged on, less and less, because I got the vibe, and whatever. And maybe tattoo shows now a little bit different, but there was a real introduction for me, and to be like, it's cool.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
very cool. Oh,
Dave Tevenall.
Dave Tevenall.
So this was the same weekend as Chris. I got tattooed by Dave in the Inked magazine office. Like they just, I don't know how it worked. I don't know whether Dave mentioned it or I'd been speaking to them separately, Inked, because they'd done an article or something. But they'd like come down to this was early days. This is not like they've got now with their big shop and everything. And so Dave came and tattooed me there, and they did a little film and a little interview and stuff. And yeah, he's just a master. Like, and yeah, so and then the next literally
That's crystal clean.
And the next day I went and got tattooed by Chris Garver. So it was like, wow, that's two pretty good New York tattoos.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dave's just he's a really when it gets down to actually talking about tattooing and him doing a tattoo, he was super serious and just wanted it to nail it. And it was just, again, another one that was on the back of my leg, so I didn't get to watch him do it. But he was pretty funny whilst I was just laying there.
Yeah. And he's a really cool guy, man.
Yeah, he's really cool. You know him, right?
I'm good friends with him. Yeah. We met
because he's not tattooing that much these days, right? He's doing more of his like sort of illustrations and stuff like that. I think
he is now. He's tattooing a lot now. And I couldn't say before, I think it was the pandemic that really kind of launched that. But man, he was doing like stuff for Marvel. And,
he was talking about all that stuff. He was going to comic book conventions more than he was doing anything tattooing.
Yeah, but that's his dream as well. And I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword because like it's hard to pay artists like these. Not hard for the sense of like they shouldn't, as in like people just don't want to.
Yeah.
They just they think, oh, you love art, can you just do this for free for me?
Totally.
And it's fucking annoying. So I can imagine he runs into a lot of that, with it. So tattooing is a very staple thing for a lot of artists, then selling your artwork and doing your other stuff, or you have to pursue 100%. So when he's doing that and he's going 100%, yeah, of course it's working all out and doing all the great. I remember all the Marvel covers he did of these like things. Then yeah, man, he's a crazy artist. Like he was sitting there in front of you and
doing this the graffiti and stuff, and I've just like seen it on videos, and it's just like it's amazing. Yeah. He's just great.
Right, who have we got here?
So this
Sean
is
from Texas.
Sean from Texas. Yeah, this was in LA. He's an interesting dude. Like, have you seen like his vibe? Like he dresses in like a boiler suit.
Okay.
And he's got this place in LA that you go through this like kind of really zhuzhy like fashion shop that sells expensive handbags to people. You go through and he's got a little shop behind it and he's got like a gravestone in there. Right. And it's like, it was really nice and polite, but it's very quiet. And yeah, I just loved like his bigger pieces. He just has hundreds of or dozens and dozens of little people doing loads of stuff. It's like one of them scenes. It's a bit like Where's Wally, but way better. And I was like, I want to get as much of that in. He goes, no, I'm just going to do a spaceman upside down. I was like, cool, man. Yeah. But that was reasonably further up it was on my hip, and that hurt a lot. Actually, I was trying to act cool, but we were on our own, and he wasn't really talking to me that much. And I was just like, when's this guy? I think he sensed it because he's like, we're not that far off. But that was.
A lot of details to get around all the stars and
exactly. Yeah. It was taking him some time, but again, probably only a couple of hours. But yeah, I was ready for that one to end when it was ending.
Oh, this is an important one, right?
Yeah, man. Like, I'm really glad Norm tattooed me, and I got to hang out with him a couple of times. Obviously, when I think it was recently. It was an anniversary of him passing, and yeah, he's such a lovely guy, and I was really happy that it was a Brighton convention actually, and I'd seen him a couple of times before, met him a couple of times before, and he's really good friends with Grace Neutral, and she just tattooed me, and we got together at the Brighton convention, and he tattooed me, and he was like, "What do you?" I was like, "I just want some script," and he asked me what I wanted, and I've got a little joking phrase with my cousin that's closer than most. And I asked him, he goes, we're not fitting that. And I'm just going to write all day on you. And I'm like, and that's the thing that he always used to say. And it was like one of his kind of catchphrases or one of his sayings. And it's like, makes it even more poignant that it's on there. And people recognize it. And he was just, I had a quite interesting after he tattooed me, about 6 months after, I was in LA. I used to, before the pandemic, I used to go over there quite a lot with my job. And I'd just been tattooed by Jim Sylvia, actually, and doing the Brit thing of just walking around, which Americans in LA don't get. They're like, why aren't you getting driving? And the week before on his Instagram stories, he'd done a mural on the front of his building, and the next door neighbor had painted over it. So he'd kind of been done this video, and I'd seen it. And I was just walking down the street, and I looked up and I recognized this place. And I was just outside Norm's shop, and I hadn't planned it. And I just walked in, and he was in there, and Grace was in there, and just hung out with them. And it was like really cool, man. He was so, inviting. And then when I heard he'd passed away, it was devastating. Like really sad stuff. But I'm just glad that I got to hang out with him, and he was a rough tattooer, man. Like that. Oh yeah. Like that. It was a convention, a lot of people looking, and it was in the inside of my thigh, and it wasn't long, but he was definitely a heavy-handed tattooer. But it's sick, and to have a piece from him is great. It was really nice, and people point it out all the time as well, which is cool.
Yeah, I saw a couple of his murals in LA.
Yeah, he's great. And this is Jim's, actually. This was the one I had. And this was it's funny if you talk to Jim, this was the first time that I realized that this collection was getting a steam of kind of recognition, or like people liking it, because Jim put that on his Instagram after doing it. And he was texting me after by how much his Instagram blew up. I think it was like his biggest liked piece, okay. And it was going crazy, and he was like sending me screenshots of like the analytics in the back, and it's like, this is crazy. It's like mad.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple like Valerie's, his, Claudia's flows that are just like technically so bang on, like, and his is just like, I don't like, it still looks like that now. And it is just he's a cool dude and really nice and like super understated, and the design is perfect. And yeah, I love that. Like, people ask me what my favourites, and I don't have favourites, but that's one of my favourites.
Sweet, one of yours up there.
Yeah, definitely. Hannah Flowers,
yeah.
Yeah, so she did this in London. I think
she goes back from Scotland to London, right? Does she work?
I don't know where she works now, but she's Kiwi. And I think she's been over this way quite for a while. And this was a good few years ago. I got tattooed by her, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But again, this is one that's pointed. This is up on my, like above my hip, actually. So it's not one that gets seen as much, because actually most of my tattoos don't get seen a lot at all, but it's when I'm in tattoo shops and I've got my trousers around my ankles, they get seen. So but when people see this one, it just stands out so much, and it's definitely better than this picture. Like, a lot of the times the pictures I've got don't even do it close justice to what it looks like in real life. And this is, it's hard going for all of these and talking about these, because I sound like a broken record, because I just love them all and I think they're all great. But I've been so lucky to get these amazing artists do this work on me, and I've been spoiled, really. I'm sure there's lots of people that get tattoos and they're not great, or they're not perfect, and sometimes people might come away and go, "Oh, that wasn't the best tattoo I ever got." But honestly, I've got so many good tattoos because these people are just, I'm very lucky, This is Steve
Byrne, yes.
Yeah. So my first pin-up, a bit of boobs on me. You got a nice pair of boobs on you at one point.
Yes.
I've now got a dick on me as well. So it feels like I'm hitting both sides.
Do you?
Yeah.
In one of the
So a rival podcast, a tattoo podcast called How Much for a Sleeve. Lucy, who is a tattoo artist, and she runs this great tattoo podcast with a guy called Mick, and they interviewed me, and then I was like, "Oh, Lucy, you should tattoo me," and she went, "I'm going to write How Much for a Sleeve on you, and it's going to be like an advert." And she's like, "Great." And then went to Brighton, and she's like, "Well, I've got 2 ideas. I'm going to write How Much for a Sleeve on you, or I'm going to draw a big dick on you. I was like, let's go with how much for a sleeve. And then she did it. She wrote it, and then right at the end of it, she goes, can I draw a dick on you anyway? And I'm like, yeah, all right. And she just did little bus stop penis, which is brilliant. And then cleared up all her station. And one of the people who was watching going, aren't you going to put some jizz on it? And then set up completely to put three little lines of jizz coming out. So, you know, once you've got a dick tattooed on you, then, you know, anything goes. But no, Steve was great. That was, he was just, you know, it was in Texas actually. And it was, his shop, Rock of Ages, is just like that stereotypical American shop where it's got like, you know, it's got like the
saloon
doors and it's like all the flash around the whole, all the walls is flash. And
do they tattoo the flash?
I don't know, but like I imagine it's some of those ones where you buy flash because it looks good or it's their flash. I don't know, but it was just cool as, and it's just like, you know, you feel like you're in America, you know, you're waiting for a cowboy to walk past. It was sick, man. And and you know, we talked about him earlier. He's a good guy. And
how long did it take, Steve Bernson?
I don't know. It was so long ago. Not long, I don't think. Not
a couple of hours.
Yeah. There's not many out of all of them that have taken much more than 2 hours. Really, there's a few that's taken more, but not that many. This is one of my faves as well. This is one of my faves, not just because of the tattoo, but because of the experience. Like Mambo's such a nice guy, and I went. He's got a shop just north of Milan, and I went up there and we spent the whole day together. Literally just me and him. And he tattooed me, and we've become, you know, pretty firm friends since then. And he's a really generous dude and someone I like a lot. And I loved his artwork beforehand. He's the only one who I actually asked to change the design.
Oh,
yeah, it's an interesting one. Like being one of the ones that I like the most and one of the most talented guys, it's quite interesting that was it. But it wasn't a bad design that he did. It was perfectly fine. But I loved his work so much, and I was so into his style. The first thing he showed me, I just was like, that doesn't feel like you to me. And I had the confidence to say to him, because I was like, I really wanted a tattoo. Like I wanted a tattoo by him for so long. I was like, and he was so great, and he's just like drew another one, and it's like, it's funny. It was like my wedding anniversary, and I wasn't with my wife. I was in a different country, and her nickname is Burger, so he did a burger, and so it's got like that real meaning. Nice. But this was so much more his style, and afterwards, you know, I don't think he was bullshitting. He was like, "I'm really glad you asked me to change this because this is a much better. I'm much happier that I've done this design than before." So I don't think he was. I trust him enough that I think that was true and genuine, and I'm glad that I did ask. And it was only out of love that I asked, like, to him to change it, because I just wanted something from him, you know. This is Mike Rubendale. This is another... Man, I got tattooed so many times.
You got so many good people. Mike Rubendale's a legend.
Yeah, he is a legend, and super understated, and like, you know, doesn't believe the hype. You know, he doesn't walk around like he's Mike Rubendale. You know what I mean?
Well,
he's like,
I remember him. I remember seeing a documentary with him, and him saying, if you're good at something, because he has his shop in
in New York.
Yeah, well, he does his original shop.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of in a smaller area where he grew up.
Right.
And I remember seeing this documentary of him, and it was just full of like people that know him. It's kind of like small town kind of here.
Right.
So, it's America, so it's probably way bigger. But I remember seeing that and him saying, if you're good at something, then people will come. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. You know,
no,
you just have to practice your craft and focus on being good, and the rest is fine.
Yeah,
right?
no, he was just. I think that was but that was at the London convention, and yeah, it was just like he was the great thing about what I'm doing, and you know, the lucky situation I'm in is like he was as into tattooing me as I was as getting tattooed by him, because he could look at all the other stuff. He was so into it, and he was like, this is an amazing idea. This is so cool. All these people are tattooing. And he was so happy to be tattooing me. And I'm just like, oh, fucking Mark Rubendale. You know, I'm just happy that you've got back to my email. But yeah, you know, amazing work.
So this is one of the ones that comes up, because this is from Black Magic Jake.
Yeah, so Jake...
I've never met Jake, but I've known his work for years.
Yeah, and this was early days. This was my this is the first time I got tattooed at the Brighton Tattoo Convention, and it was like I just got this one tattoo over the whole weekend. And again, this was before I kind of knew a lot of tattoo artists, so I'd just gone down there just to get tattooed by him, and I didn't hang around that much. But yeah, like actually getting tattooed by him was great. He's like a super chilled guy, and you know, it was like a really cool tattoo he's done. It's like really graphic and really nice, and
but someone's copied it.
yeah. So I don't. It was a while later. It was a couple of years later, and I just started getting tagged into this like post, and I was like, "Fuck, that's not my tattoo." And yeah, some artist in Russia tattooed the exact same tattoo on
And
did the hexagon thing, and then did exactly the same tattoo. And you know, we talked earlier about like people copying or doing the hexagon thing, which is fine. But like this, I was angry about this, and then not for me, but for Jake, it's like,
well, he's put it's different taking the concept.
yeah.
Isn't it?
Oh,
the concept
and
of being
even,
like, you don't own hexagons,
No.
but they drew and designed that personally for you.
Yeah.
For this project.
Yeah.
And then you just
someone just take, and the tattoo artist isn't a bad tattoo artist. If you look
No.
at like, if you
Yeah,
look at
it's solid
it's pretty solid. Like it's not as good as Jake's, but it's pretty
Yeah.
solid. But I'm just like, oh,
do your own one.
Yeah, just why don't you do your own one? It's weird. Like maybe his customer went to him and said, "This is exactly what I want," but it's just weird that someone's walking around with exactly the same tattoo as me. Like I you know, I'm pretty flippant about. I've got a dick drawn on me. I'm pretty flippant about what I do. But if you, I can just imagine if it meant a lot to you, like if you got a tattoo that meant something, or it was like, you know, and then someone copies it, it must be really strange, and heartbreaking. But you know,
yeah. I mean, I get a lot of work copied, and I had this like very. I did a fox, and it was like in this beanie, and it's actually a shop logo now. And I have so many tattoos. When I first worked at the London convention, a bunch of tattoos that I really respected come to me and was like, yeah, I used to like do your work years ago. And I did that fox so many times. And I was there kind of like, wait, what? You know? But it was really cool to see him. One of my best friends, like Felix, he said he's like, he come to guest at my studio years ago. And when it was his first guest spot ever, I think it was, or abroad. And he said, he was like, oh yeah, and I got there and I was really excited to come meet you because I did all like your kind of work. And he goes, and then I forgot when I got in the shop that I had ripped off the fox. And he goes, and I'm wondering if he remembers it, you know?
Oh man.
And I didn't care. No, yeah, I don't care about that stuff.
No,
like, I remember at first when I was a bit younger in my career, when I wasn't that kind of sure about, you know, maybe I'm not that sure about myself or my art or whatever. Yeah. And then you feel like, oh no, if people just take my stuff and then I'm going to be forgotten about or something like that. But what are you going to do?
I think
it's nice when
it's,
people like
exactly. I'm chill about it. I just think, you know, I'm not doing the art. So I was annoyed on behalf of Jake. I think Jake was chill about it. He just found it funny. But I was, you know, on behalf of him, I thought I was pretty annoyed, and everyone went in. I got blocked pretty quickly when I started commenting on that guy's thing. He was like, oh yeah, no, I can't get that post anymore. And it's like, oh yeah, you've been blocked, mate. So yeah.
So Steve Butcher now.
Oh, Steve, it's the Kobe. Obviously, if you're going to go to Steve Butcher and let him do whatever he wants, he's going to tattoo a Kobe on you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went to his house actually. He was living just outside of LA, and went to his house, and he did this for me. And I'd wanted Steve, you know, Steve's works, you know, speaks for itself, but I'd wanted him to tattoo me, and we'd been talking about it for a while, and then managed to get it done. And it was great to, you know, it was nice that he invited me into his house, and we did it there. And it was, you know, he took a while, like not as long as you'd think. I don't think it took more than 3 hours, but you know, it was pretty, you know,
wow.
He took his time. But the craziest thing about it was, I don't know how long afterwards Kobe died, and he posted it, and it like, I think it got 30,000 like it was mad. Wow. And everyone was going in on it. Like that brought it, because I'm not a basketball. I wasn't a basketball fan. I know who Kobe is.
Yeah,
I know he's like GOAT and all this sort of stuff. But I'm like, I don't give a shit about the LA Lakers. But it was cool to have it on there. But then, you know, as these things do, it got a bit more poignant after that had happened. But yeah, it's like it's a fun one to have on there.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of solidifies it, doesn't it? Of like, you realize as well, it's like you've kind of immortalized someone's life in them having no existence now as well, which is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's a well, Steve's done a lot of Kobe tattoos. There's a lot of people out there who have Kobe's face on there, but it's cool to have it. And then I've got friends who are into basketball, and they're like, is that why didn't you put the other number? And he's got like 2 numbers over his career, and I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, it's fine.
Right. This one's a really interesting one for me because it's just an orange. It's just an orange hexagon.
So there's a lot to this, because this is Nick Horn, who is who's, I don't know how many people know who Nick Horn is. I know that a lot of people do, but he's a true fucking master of his craft. But he's like,
you said that he helped you start this off.
Well, no. So I went to him when I wanted to extend to the whole of my left leg. So I was more than 50 hexagons in at this point, and I was always looking at, and I wanted to get my leg sleeve where all of the hexagons were connected.
Yeah.
And I spoke to some artists, and they're just like, it can be done, but that's going to be horrible for the artist, and all of the hexagons are going to have to be different sizes. Obviously, your leg is a cone, and it's not a straight cone. And I got very quickly convinced not to do that. And then I was just like, I want, sick lines, and I want this really good. And Anthony Fleming, who tattooed me, he showed me his chest piece that Nick had done, and the line work was just, so good. And then I found out he's 15 minutes around the corner from where I live. So I went in and saw him, and he spent 2 days putting 90 hexagons onto my legs, which wasn't the funnest thing for him to do, and it wasn't the funnest thing for me to get tattooed for. But all the way through, I was like, so you got to tattoo me. And he's, he can do anything. He does a lot of, traditional Japanese, but he can do any style of tattoo. And I think he's been tattooing for, 2 decades or more. And he was just like, and first of all, he's going, I might do a color wash. And I was like, cool, sounds good. And he's like, actually, I just like this color. I'm going to color it in orange. And I was like, that is perfect. And I think it's one that gets pointed out a lot. And actually, like, the saturation on it is, I didn't know this stuff until I started talking to people, but it's quite hard to do, actually.
The Dermaglow orange? Do you know?
I've got a picture of it.
I think I remember seeing
it's his favourite orange, and
there it is again.
Yeah, and he and it's great. I love the fact that he just coloured it in, and it's brilliant.
So you got a rainbow one here, rainbow watermelon.
Yeah, so this has got a name. What did he call her or it? I'm gonna have to look it up. But the watermelon has a name, and this was in LA, and his Instagram is gold LA grams, but it's Roberto, his name, and he was funny. I went in there with my colleague, and it was in downtown LA, and he was like, my art is pretty gay. It's pretty out there. I was like, go the gayer the better. And he did me this watermelon, and it's brilliant. And this was a nice one that actually, people, you get those memes where people are like, the artist didn't post your tattoo when you get tattooed, and they don't post it, and it's really sad as a customer. But he actually made this tattoo his actual Instagram,
his
icon for like a year, and I was just like, yes, that's so cool. But he was a really fun session to hang out for, and it did a really good tattoo.
Yeah, nice. Right, so we've got Henri, right?
So he is someone that, it's funny, like I forget how I got introduced to people, and I think that I hit them up beforehand when I didn't. Like, I'm pretty sure I was really aware of his work, and then he appeared on a podcast that I listened to, and I was like, oh yeah, he's a really cool dude, and that gave me the kind of impetus to hit him up. And I was going to Liverpool for work, and I hit him up, and as happens a lot, and again, I'm going to say that word, I'm very lucky, he like just fit me in really last minute outside of like, did it in the evening, and he actually filmed the whole thing on a GoPro, and he was wearing a GoPro, and it's like got the whole time lapse of the whole thing, which he posted, which is really cool. But we just we just talked about music the whole time.
He's a really cool girl, a really cool guy.
Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah,
I met him in Poland, and I had the most awkward entry with him ever because I was sharing a booth with him at the convention, and I was the annoying person at the convention that forgot everything, and he was very accommodating at the start. You know, when I was like, "Oh, Andreas, do you have like an elastic band?" You know, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, help yourself." And then it was like, "Oh, what about a tongue depressor?" And it's like, yeah, help yourself. It's in the bag. Have you got any of the there? And then it was always like, he was just like pointing at the end, you know. And I was like, I swear I did try and bring stuff, but I just don't remember, you know. And he was very prepared and, you know, and all his stuff. But yeah, he's such a nice guy. I've met him a bunch of times now. You know?
he was really nice. And it's like one of those ones where we talked non-stop whilst he was tattooing me, and not once about tattooing. It was all about just music. He writes music and just chatting about Liverpool. And it was like, by the end of it, we're like, oh, it's finished. And it's like, we haven't talked about tattooing once. We've just talked about it. It was great. And, you know, he's got a really cool book that he's made. Actually, he gave me a copy of that. And
yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's really,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
This is all on your Instagram, so everyone can check all this out. All the ones that we've picked anyway. But this one here is a collaboration one. There was another one that with Kat, where there was a collaboration one.
Kat and Beth, yeah. I was speaking to them both separately, actually. I both loved their work. And then, weirdly enough, I found out that they were mates. And so I went, well, if you guys are mates, do you want to do it together? And they'd never done a collaboration together, even though they were best friends.
Yeah.
And so they did together, and it was great. Like, they were super psyched to do it, and we had a brilliant day doing that. And then, so that was that one, and it's a great piece, and it's really clever how
there's two on that one.
It's really clever how they've kind of got both of their styles together and made it a collaboration, but it's quite separate of showing their work. And then the one we're looking at now, Little Nick, I wanted to get tattooed. This is really recent. I only got this done a few months ago.
Man, the shade in it.
Man, it's so like this. People just, you know, this blew up when this got posted for sure.
That's crazy.
They so I wanted to get tattooed by Nick for years, and at conventions we'd always talk to each other, and he was always doing a big piece and never fit it in, and then we finally got to like, let's just do it, and I'm going to go out to Birmingham, and I'm going to go to the studio. But then I was like, you've got so many good artists at the church, and why don't we do something fun? And I made the suggestion, if we get a few of you, and then you can get one image, put it over for, because I'd always thought in the back of my head this would be quite a cool thing to do. And Nick was like, yeah, that sounds great. And so I spoke to him, and there was Reese and Stephanie and Kristen, and I asked him, I was like, would they be up for doing it? And he spoke to them, and then there was the kind of trying to get a date where all four of them could do it, and it was a few months later, but they all came in on a Sunday. We had the studio to ourselves.
Yeah, nice.
And it was just, I knew it was going to be good, but when I saw the design, first of all, I was like, fuck, that's amazing. And then actually, whilst they were tattooing me one at a time in a row, so it was 8 hours I was getting tattooed for, and I'm not very good at sitting for a long time, but I treat it as a session each time, you know. I mean, I try to forget about the last one. Yeah. But I think it's the best piece of art I've got on me by far. And I think it might be, you know, it's my humble opinion, but I think it might be one of the best, you know, tattoos out there. It's just, and it's, you know, and it's healed perfectly.
It kind of reminds me of like a creepy version of Leaving Las Vegas.
Oh,
you know, with like the glasses.
Yeah.
And
totally.
it kind of trippy in each square, hexagon and stuff.
Yeah, so like they've got very different styles. And so the point is like, you know, how good would it be to get all of those styles together in one image? And they've bashed it out of the park how they put that together. But it was so interesting how they did it, even with Reese, because he does a lot of like black and grey, but then the kind of red style, and he does that throughout an image. But if you look at it, like where the hexagon split is the half and half, and he's done that, and it fits with Nick's black and grey, and it's just it's just amazing, man. It's like I was so, you know, I was in that studio for 10 hours getting tattooed for 8 hours, and I wanted to finish, but it's the best thing I've got, I think.
Yeah. So tell us about your book you've got coming out.
Well, it's not quite coming out yet. It's not really written, but I always along the way I've like, actually been told by lots of people, like, you've got to do a book about this. It's so cool, and I've always wanted to, but I'm not a writer. I'm not someone who can put books together. So I've always it's been a dream to do it, but I never had the time or kind of the effort to go and do it. And then I was talking to Lau actually at the Brighton convention, and he introduced me to a publisher who does a lot of tattoo books. And
So Gentleman's Flash.
yeah, Gentleman's Flash, yeah, exactly. Al, I think his name is.
Okay.
And he just started talking to me about how feasible it would be, and the the sort of costs that would come around of it. And I really want to do it. I don't want it to be a commercial thing. I don't want to do it to try and sell lots of books. It's not a way to make money or to try and get it out there, because I think that changes your attitude to how you want to write it. Right. I really just want to do it as something I can give to all the artists that have tattooed me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there will be some people that want to buy it, but I don't want to do it with the idea that I'm trying to write a book that's going to make me a load of money. I just want to make a little artifact and make it nice, like a really hardback thing, mainly photos, but get, from the artists that want to write a little bit of what their experience of the tattoo was, if they want to write that, and then I'll write
their process or something,
anything they want to do, and then I'm gonna write. Well, I've got a friend who's a journalist, and she's going to make my words sound a lot more intelligent than I would. But I'm going to write a little kind of paragraph about each tattoo, have each tattoo be a page. And I'm just going to do number 1 to 100 to start off with.
Okay.
Because I've got 200. I'm going to do. My idea is to do 200 of these. I want to stop at 200.
Okay. What's significant about 200? I guess you need space for your body.
It's a round number, and I could keep on going, and I maybe would keep on going, but I think it's nice to have an end. Yeah, and I haven't got, I could do my whole body in them, but I don't think I want to do that. So I'm probably going to go to 200. And I thought it'd be quite nice to do volume 1, 0 to 100, and then. In 5 years' time, when I finish number 200, I can do a second book, and just so it's something nice to have out there, I think.
And I guess away from for you as well, as from you traveling and doing all this stuff, is there being that kind of like, it's almost like a travel diary through tattooing as well.
100%. And I had the thought process at the start of it. I've got a picture of me with every artist apart from you. You're the one person we forgot to do that picture.
We'll do that tonight. We'll go out for dinner after this.
Exactly. But me with every artist, and the stencil or drawing or whatever was done to start off with, and then the finished tattoo. And I've got that of every single tattoo. So that's quite a nice kind of theme all the way through of how we can do that graphically. But then loads of, photos of me being tattooed, the tattoo shops, the areas I've been, and there's loads of cool things to do with like all the places around the world. I've been lucky enough to get tattooed in lots of countries, in lots of continents all around the world, and I think it's just nice to actually put that down in something that's that people can have a look at, and also I just like the idea of being able to send one to everyone and just give it to them, and everyone gets something through the post, and it be a nice little artifact that hopefully they'll want to put on their shelf, and it will give them a bit of a reminder.
It's quite a nice communal thing to be a part of,
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
It's just about doing it, like it's easy to say, but actually putting that together is not, when I've got a full-time job and all that sort of stuff, it's not quick. But I think, hopefully by summer next year, I can have something done and out, and I think it will be relatively simple to do. So yeah, I'll probably make a few more. So if anyone wants one, they can ask me for one. But but yeah, so we'll see. I've got in my head what it's going to be like, but it's actually making it. I don't want to do something that's not good. So leaning on people that I know who have those skills, like graphic designers and stuff like that, so I can actually get it.
There might be some people listening that can help out.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyone want to hit me up? I've got the photos, but I just I want it to look cool, and I want it to not even cool. I want it to look proper and be a thing, and just be something that's of the substance of the tattoos and the art that's in there. I want it to be equal to that.
Yeah,
And so,
all that hours of hard work has to go into this book.
Exactly, I think so. And I don't want to just get something out there. If we're going to make something of it, and I think people will like to look at it, I think it needs to be proper.
Great.
Yeah.
So any time frame, or is it just like as this collection goes?
Well, I've done the 100, so the
Looking to do the first volume.
The first one needs to be done. I've already started writing a bit of text about each one. It's funny, like thinking back to things that 5 years ago. You're trying to think of what happened in that session and what was the nice thing to tell people about, if there is something there, and just something interesting. You know, I don't really want it to be too much of my words, really, but you know, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be nice.
Well, nice. Well, hopefully we'll see that soon.
Yeah, great.
And thanks again, man.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah.